It was around 2:03 a.m., sometime last winter. I was driving home from a college trip, just me, my beat-up sedan, and miles of empty highway cutting through the dark. The air outside was freezing, and the only sound inside the car was the low hum of my tires and the occasional squeak of my wipers fighting off the mist. I remember feeling that heavy, sleepy haze settle in, the kind that makes the white lines on the road blur together. I had about an hour left before I hit my town, and there wasn't another pair of headlights in sight. It felt like I was the only person alive on that stretch of road. That's when I saw him. Up ahead, maybe a few hundred feet away, there was this figure standing right on the highway divider, perfectly still. Not walking. Not waiting for help. Just standing there. He was facing oncoming traffic, staring straight ahead like he was waiting for something. I slowed down, thinking maybe he was a stranded driver or someone who'd been in an accident. But as my headlights washed over him, I realized something felt off. His clothes didn't fit the weather, just dark jeans, a light gray hoodie, no coat. His arms hung stiff at his sides. No movement at all. When I got close enough, he suddenly turned his head, just his head, and locked eyes with me. I don't know how to describe it, but something in that look froze my chest. His face was completely blank, but his eyes, they looked wrong. Wide, glassy, like he was seeing something behind me, not at me. I remember whispering out loud, "What the hell?" and gripping the wheel tighter. I didn't stop. I just eased back onto the gas and drove past him, trying not to look, but as my headlights faded, I caught him in my mirror. He was still standing there, same spot, but now he turned his whole body toward my car, watching me drive away. The rest of the highway was just silence and darkness. I tried to convince myself it was nothing, maybe just some drunk or someone waiting for a ride. But the image of his face, it stuck with me. That kind of dead, distant stare you can't shake. About 10 minutes later, I realized my heart was still pounding. I rolled down the window a bit, just to get some cold air, but even the wind outside felt heavy, like the night itself was pressing in. I remember checking my phone for service, nothing. Not even a single bar. I told myself I'd stop at the next gas station, grab a coffee, maybe stretch my legs. Anything to get my mind off it. But when I finally did stop, that's when I realized this night wasn't over. Not even close. I pulled into this tiny roadside gas station about half an hour later. It was one of those 24-hour places with a single flickering light over the pumps and a small shop that looked closed. I parked, stepped out, and just stood there for a minute, rubbing my eyes. The cold hit me hard, and for a second, I felt almost normal again. Then I noticed something across the road, under the streetlight, the one that kept flickering every few seconds. There was a man standing on the opposite side of the highway, same hoodie. Same jeans. Same stance. He wasn't moving, wasn't even looking at the station. Just standing there, head tilted slightly down. The light would flicker off, and when it came back on, he'd still be there. I swear my stomach dropped so fast I almost fell back against my car. There was no way. There was no way he could have gotten there before me. I got in my car immediately and locked the doors. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped the keys. I remember just staring through the windshield, waiting for him to move, to do something. But he didn't. He just stood there, facing the road. After what felt like forever, I started the car and drove off again. My mind was racing. Every few minutes, I'd check my mirrors, expecting to see headlights behind me. But the road stayed empty. By the time I got home, around 3:40 a.m., I was a wreck. I didn't even turn on the lights when I walked in. I just locked the door, sat on the couch, and tried to process what happened. The next day, I told my roommate about it. He thought I was joking until I showed him the dashcam footage. You can see the man, standing right on the divider, motionless, facing traffic. But here's the thing, After I passed him, there's another moment, like a split second later, where the camera glitches, and if you pause it just right, you can see that same figure again, further down the highway. I didn't notice that until later. A few days after, I got a call from a local officer. He said they'd reviewed some highway surveillance from that night because there had been multiple reports of a pedestrian sighting. He didn't tell me much, but he said something that still makes my skin crawl. They found the same man on 3 different cameras, each 1 miles apart, within minutes of each other. Each time, he was standing on the divider. Each time, he was facing traffic. And every single time, it was just as my car passed by. He wasn't on the footage before me. He wasn't there after. Just when I drove past. I don't drive that route anymore. Hell, I barely drive at night now. Sometimes, when I'm on the road and see a figure in the distance, my chest tightens before I even realize it, because deep down, part of me still wonders if he's out there, waiting on another empty highway, under another flickering light, watching someone else drive by. It was late July, around 11:45 p.m., when we saw her. Megan and I were somewhere between Flagstaff and Winslow, cutting through a long, empty stretch of Arizona highway. We'd been on the road for hours, just 2 friends trying to make it across the country before summer ended. The air outside was hot and dry, that kind of desert heat that clings to your skin even with the AC blasting. The highway was dead quiet. No cars, no gas stations for miles, just the dark desert and the sound of tires humming against cracked asphalt. I remember Megan yawning, scrolling through her phone for music, when she suddenly said, "Wait, is that a person?" Up ahead, barely visible in the beams of my headlights, was a woman standing on the shoulder. She was waving both arms like she was trying to flag someone down. I slowed the car, more out of instinct than reason. Her clothes looked dusty, jeans, a light denim jacket, hair pulled back into a messy braid. "Maybe she broke down," Megan said quietly. Something about the way she was standing didn't sit right with me. Her movements were frantic, almost rehearsed, like she wanted to make sure we saw her. Still, it was the middle of nowhere, and leaving someone stranded out here felt wrong. We pulled over. The woman walked toward the car slowly, like she was making sure we wouldn't drive off. I rolled down the window just a bit and asked if she needed help. Her voice was calm, almost soft. "I just need a ride. Please. Just a few miles down." Megan and I exchanged a look. There was something off in her tone, polite, but distant. Still, I unlocked the back door. She climbed in without saying another word. The moment she shut the door, the car went quiet, like the air got heavier. I started driving again, and for the first few minutes, no one spoke. Then, out of nowhere, she said, "You two must be tired. You've been driving since Santa Fe." I frowned. "How do you know that?" She just smiled faintly in the rearview mirror. "You told me." But we hadn't. I looked at Megan, who looked back at me, eyes wide. Neither of us said a word. A few minutes later, she spoke again. "Rachel, you shouldn't worry so much about your brother. He's strong." My heart skipped. I hadn't mentioned my brother once during the trip. "How do you know my brother?" I asked, my voice sharper this time. She didn't answer. She just kept staring out the window, the faintest smile still on her face. That was the first moment I felt real fear. The kind that sinks into your stomach and stays there. Megan leaned close and whispered, "Let's drop her off. Now." I nodded. I told the woman we were taking an exit up ahead, but she didn't respond. Just kept staring. When I finally pulled over near an old rest stop, I turned around and said, "This is as far as we can take you." But when I looked back, the seat was empty, the door was still locked. We didn't move for what felt like a full minute. Just silence, both of us staring at that empty back seat. I remember the smell of dust and old fabric, the faint creak of the car as the desert wind pushed against it. Megan's voice finally broke the silence. "Did you see her get out?" "No," I whispered. The car doors were all still locked. There hadn't been any sound, no click, no movement, nothing. I opened my door and stepped out, the dry wind hitting my face. There were no footprints in the dirt, no sign of anyone walking away. It was like she had never been there at all. We drove the rest of the night without talking. Every few minutes, I'd glance in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see her sitting there again. But it was just the darkness staring back. The next morning, we stopped at a diner near Holbrook. My hands were still shaking when I picked up my phone. I hadn't checked it since last night, no service in that area. When I turned it on, I saw 3 missed calls from my mom. I called her back immediately. She sounded panicked. "Rachel, where are you? I've been trying to reach you." "It's about Josh, my little brother." She said he'd gone missing sometime after midnight, right around the time we picked up that woman. He was supposed to meet a friend after work but never showed. They found his car still parked outside the convenience store where he worked. Then my mom said something that made my blood run cold. The police released a sketch of the woman they think took him. Someone saw her near the store earlier that night. When I saw the sketch later that day, it was her. The same woman from the side of the road. Same hair, same denim jacket, same faint smile. I don't remember much after that. Megan said I dropped my phone and just sat there, staring. The police never found the woman. They said the cameras near the store glitched out for almost an hour. The only footage they recovered showed a shadow, a figure walking toward Josh's car. Sometimes, when I think back, I remember the exact words she said in the car. "You shouldn't worry so much about your brother. He's strong." She said it like she already knew what had happened. Like she was there. It's been almost 3 years now. My brother's still missing. I moved out of our hometown after that summer, and I haven't taken a road trip since. Every once in a while, I dream about that desert highway. The flickering headlights, the woman's face in the rearview mirror. And in the dream, she's smiling at me again, but this time, she's sitting in the front seat. It was around 2:17 a.m. when my gas light came on. I'd been driving through rural Montana, nothing but black sky and endless highway stretching for miles. My GPS had already lost signal an hour ago, and the next town wasn't for another 30 miles. The road signs were few and far between, most were rusted, half faded, but eventually, I saw one with a small arrow that said gas 2 miles. I don't think I've ever felt so relieved. The station came into view a few minutes later. It was one of those old 24-hour types you only see in movies, flickering neon sign, peeling paint, a single pump under a dim light. A lone pickup truck sat off to the side, covered in dust. I pulled up, shut the engine off, and stepped out. The air smelled like rain and gasoline. There was a buzzing light over the door that blinked every few seconds, and through the glass, I could see an old man behind the counter. He looked up as I walked in, smiling just enough to show a row of yellowed teeth. "Evening," he said. "Quiet night, huh?" "Yeah," I said, forcing a small laugh. "Almost ran out of gas." "You're a lifesaver." He nodded slowly, eyes flicking past me toward the parking lot. It was subtle, but I noticed. The way his gaze lingered on my car. I grabbed a soda and a pack of gum, trying not to think about it. The whole place smelled old, like oil and something metallic. The shelves were half empty, the floor sticky. But what really got me was the silence. There wasn't even a radio playing. When I went to pay, the old man stared at my debit card a little too long before sliding it through the reader. He mumbled, "Machine's acting up tonight." He tried again. And again. Then he sighed and looked up at me. Guess it's down. Mind waiting a few minutes while I reset the system? Something about the way he said it felt wrong. Like he was stalling. I glanced toward the door, and that's when I heard the click. He'd locked it. I froze. The key ring on his belt jingled as he turned away from the door, pretending to fiddle with something behind the counter. Just for safety, he said without looking at me. We get folks wandering in this time of night. Better to keep it locked till I'm done. My stomach sank. Yeah. Sure. He kept his back turned. I noticed his hands shaking slightly as he reached under the counter, not like an old man's tremor. More like excitement. I tried to sound casual. Mind if I use your restroom while you fix it? He hesitated for a moment, then nodded toward a narrow hallway near the back. First door on the left. I walked down the hall, every step echoing off the cracked tile floor. The smell got stronger, something metallic, mixed with bleach. When I reached the door, I realized it wasn't marked. No men or women sign, just a small metal handle. Inside, it was barely lit. The sink was rusted, the mirror cracked. But there was a small window high up on the wall, just big enough for someone to fit through. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely think. I climbed onto the sink, shoved the window open, and pulled myself through. The air outside hit me like ice. I dropped down behind the building and crouched low, waiting to hear if he'd noticed. Nothing. I ran, full sprint, down the road until I saw a payphone glowing under a single streetlight. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely dial 911. The police showed up 20 minutes later. 2 cruisers. I waited with one of the deputies while the others went inside. When they came back out, their faces said everything. They said the man wasn't an employee. The real clerk, the owner, had been found in the basement, dead for hours. The guy I'd spoken to had taken his uniform, his keys, even his truck parked out back, but that's not all. When they searched the basement, they found 3 other vehicles, hidden under dusty tarps, license plates removed. All registered to travelers who'd gone missing within the last 2 years. They never caught the man who was pretending to be the clerk. They said he must have slipped out before I called, vanished into the woods. Sometimes, I think about that night. The way he kept looking at my car, like he was deciding something. If I hadn't gone to that bathroom when I did, I don't think I'd be here to tell you this story now. Whenever I'm driving late and see one of those old 24-hour stations glowing in the distance, I keep driving. It was around 11:30 p.m., late summer of 2019, when my girlfriend, Emily, and I were driving through the Nevada desert. We were on our way to visit her sister in California, and since we'd left Reno later than planned, most of the drive was pitch-black highway. If you've ever driven through that stretch of Nevada, you know how empty it gets. Long, straight roads surrounded by nothing but open desert and the occasional road sign you can barely see until your headlights catch it. It's one of those drives that makes you feel like you're the last person left on Earth. We had the windows cracked just a little for air. The night was still and heavy, and our music was turned low, just enough to keep us awake. That's when Emily leaned forward and said, "Hey, there's a car behind us." I checked the rearview mirror, and sure enough, there were 2 bright headlights way back in the distance. No big deal at first, it's a highway, after all. But what struck me was how far back it was. It wasn't gaining on us, just there. About 30 minutes went by, and it still hadn't passed. Every time I looked up, the headlights were in the exact same spot, steady, perfectly centered in my mirror. I slowed down a little, thinking maybe it would pass if I dropped my speed. It slowed down too. That's when Emily noticed. "Alex, it's matching us." I brushed it off at first. Told her maybe we were both just pacing the same speed. But deep down, something about it didn't feel right. We hit a fork in the highway and took the left route toward Tonopah. I watched as the car behind us made the same turn, not a second's hesitation. For the next 2 hours, that car never got closer, never fell back. Just followed us, like it was tethered to our bumper by some invisible line. Around 2:10 a.m., I started feeling that crawling sensation on the back of my neck, the kind you can't shake. I flicked off our headlights for a split second on a straight stretch of road, just to see what would happen. The car behind us did the same. That's when Emily whispered, "Please, Alex, do something." I nodded and turned off onto an old rest stop sign posted on the right. Nothing but a dirt lot with a couple of picnic tables and an ancient vending machine buzzing in the dark. I figured if the car just kept going, we'd know it wasn't about us. We pulled in, and I turned off the engine. The desert was dead silent. No wind, no crickets, just that low electric hum from the vending machine. Then, a minute later, the car appeared at the edge of the road. It slowed down. Then, it pulled into the rest stop, maybe 100 feet away from us, and stopped. The headlights turned off. We sat there frozen. My hand hovered over the ignition, my heart pounding so hard it felt like the entire car was shaking with it. Emily grabbed my arm and whispered, "Don't move." The desert around us was pitch black. The other car just sat there, no lights, no movement. I couldn't see the driver, couldn't even make out the shape of the car beyond the faint outline against the sky. Minutes passed. Maybe 5, maybe 15, it was hard to tell. Then, slowly, the driver's side door creaked open. I saw a shape, a silhouette, step out. It stood there for a few seconds, just facing our direction. Then it turned and walked around to the back of the car, disappearing into the shadows behind it. That was enough for me. I started the engine, slammed it into gear, and tore out of that lot like my life depended on it. Emily was crying, begging me not to stop again. I dialed 911 while driving, told them we were being followed by a suspicious vehicle, gave them the highway number, the rest stop name, everything. The dispatcher told us to stay on the line and keep driving toward the next town. They'd send a cruiser to intercept us. For the next 40 miles, that same car followed again. Still keeping that perfect distance. Never close enough to see inside, never far enough to feel safe. Finally, around 3:05 a.m., the dispatcher said a patrol unit was coming from the opposite direction. We spotted the flashing lights maybe a mile ahead and pulled to the side of the road. The car behind us slowed down too, then stopped about 50 yards back. The officer motioned for us to stay put as he approached the other vehicle. His flashlight beam cut across the windshield, but the moment it hit the car, he froze. He turned back toward his cruiser, muttered something into his radio, then waved for his partner. A few minutes later, the officer came back to us. "I'll never forget the look on his face." He said, "There's nobody in that car." We both just stared at him. "What do you mean, nobody?" "The engine's cold," he said quietly. "Doors are locked from the inside. There's no footprints, no tire tracks showing when it pulled up behind you." He told us they'd run the plates, but the registration came back to a vehicle reported missing 6 years earlier. I didn't even know what to say. I remember my throat going dry, my hands gripping the wheel so hard they hurt. Emily started shaking. A few weeks later, one of the officers emailed me. He said the dashcam footage from our car, the one that had been recording the whole trip, showed something strange. Every few miles, when the headlights behind us flickered, there were inconsistencies. Like jumps. As if the car had blinked forward on the road. And when they compared our footage to other travelers' dashcams from the same stretch of highway, they found it, that same exact car, following different people at different times, always at night, always keeping perfect distance, always vanishing when confronted. I don't know what that car was, or who, if anyone, was driving it. But every time I drive at night now, I still check the mirror a little too often. Because sometimes, when the road behind me is dark and empty, I swear I can still see two faint headlights far in the distance, not getting closer, not falling back, just waiting. Some things don't chase you to hurt you, they just want to be seen, and once they are, they never really let go. If you felt that same chill when the headlights faded, Tell me in the comments. I want to know I'm not the only one still looking over my shoulder. Tap the like button if you felt it too. And subscribe to Jenny Noir, where the stories never end, they just wait in the dark. Until next time, keep your eyes on the road behind you.